Namaste, aloha, welcome to the Bhagavad Gita as it is class. My name is Janapati Das. Welcome, please accept my respects, everyone. We will be reading through more of chapter 13 today. So let me take this opportunity to offer my most humble obeisances unto my spiritual master, Jagat Guru, Siddhaswarapananda Paramahamsa Srila Prabhupada, and to his divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we will start this class with the hearing and chanting of Krishna's names. All glory to the congregational chanting of Krishna's names, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years together. Namo Siddhaswarapananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Krishnayate Namo Siddhaswarapananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Krishnayate Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Bhagavata Haribo Nitago 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 Haribo Nitago Haribo Haribo Nitago 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 Haribo Haribo Nitago Nitago Haribo Haribo Nitago 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 Haribo Haribo Nitago Nitago Haribo Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Haribo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I was born in the darkness, ignorance. Excuse me while I turn the fan on here. Born in the darkness, ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Okay, so we are continuing with text 18, chapter 13. Chapter 13 is nature, the enjoyer, and consciousness. And it's explaining more of the energies of Krishna, talking about how God pervades all of his creation through expansions, through incarnations. He is present as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he is present where his energies are present. And talking about the Paramatma, the Supersoul, and how the Supersoul, how Krishna has an expansion of the Lord in the heart, which is commonly known in the West as like the Holy Spirit. You know, the Holy Spirit is the Lord in the heart, the expansion of Krishna in the heart. And the last verse was, it appears that because Krishna is within every living entity's heart, guiding him, fulfilling their desires and whatnot, it appears that God is divided. But actually, Bhaktivedanta used the example of how, what was it exactly? The sun, like the sun is situated in one place, although the sunlight is distributed thousands of miles away. You think, well, the sun is there. The sun is present where I'm standing, but yet the sun globe is so far away. So Krishna is present in all and can hear the prayers of the devotee of Krishna who pray to Krishna, who have conversation. So Krishna is present with us, although situated so far away. Sorry, my glasses are kind of... So we're reading text 18. Jyotisham api taj jyotish tamasha param uchyate gananyam ganayam gana gamaya lidi sarvasya vishtitam jyotisham, in all luminous objects. So we know the word jyoti. Jyoti means light, like Brahma Jyoti, the light of the Brahman, right? So any word we have a jyoti, jyotisham, in all luminous objects. Api also taught that jyoti, the source of light. Tamashaha, of the darkness. Tamas is known as, is also ignorance. So we have satyas, rajas, and tamas in the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, ignorance. Tamas is darkness, because when you're in the dark, you're in ignorance. Because you don't know what's going on. It's like, he was in the dark. You have that saying, he was in the dark about what was going on, right? Param, beyond. Param is also great. Great, it's also supreme, like the Para Brahman. Param, beyond, but beyond. Uchate is said. Gananam, knowledge. Ganayam, to be known. Gana, gamyam, to be approached by knowledge. That's interesting. Hridi, in the heart. Sarvasha, of everyone. Vishtitam, situated. Translation: he is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge. He is the object of knowledge, and he is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. So Krishna is present in the heart as the Paramatma, the source of light of all luminous objects, just like in the Brahmajyoti, the light that of all the living entities of a Brahman, the light of Brahman, Brahmajyoti, right? Krishna is Krishna. The source of that is Krishna. Purport by His divine grace. Super soul, the supreme personality of Godhead, is the source of light in all luminous objects like the sun, moon, stars, etc. In the Vedic literature, we find that in the spiritual kingdom, there is no need of sun or moon because of the effulgence of the Supreme Lord is there. So that is what's stated in the illumination. People can see in the light because of the light, the jyoti of Krishna, the spiritual light that is present, that illuminates all planets and all things in the spiritual world. Whereas, even though Krishna is the source of luminous objects in the material world, those things are temporary. And, like we have sunlight right now, it's the middle of the day because our Earth is faced towards the luminous object of the sun. But when it rotates in its 24-hour period, it turns away from the sun, and therefore we're in darkness. So, but in the spiritual world, there is no darkness. It is all Krishna's, and Krishna is the source of the light. In the material world, that Brahma Jyoti, the Lord's spiritual effulgence, is covered by Maha Tattva, the material elements. So the material elements and situations, right, create light and darkness. Therefore, in this material world, we require the assistance of sun, moon, electricity, etc. for light. But in the spiritual world, there is no need of such things. It is clearly stated in the Vedic literature that because of his luminous effulgence, everything is illuminated. It is clear, therefore, that his situation is not in the material world. He is situated in the spiritual world, which is far, far away in the spiritual sky. That is also confirmed in the Vedic literature. Ajita Varnam Tamashaha Palashtat. He is just like the sun, eternally luminous, but he is far, far beyond the darkness of this material world. His knowledge is transcendental. The Vedic literature confirms that Brahman is concentrated spiritual knowledge. Let me read that again. The Vedic literature confirms that Brahman is concentrated transcendental knowledge. To one who is anxious to be transferred to that spiritual world, knowledge is given by the Supreme Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart. And it is also stated that the spiritual master approaches with the torchlight of knowledge, which is Krishna, the knowledge of Krishna. But we are born in the darkness of ignorance. This is this tamashaha, the darkness of ignorance in this material world, which has to do with material energy. And it's not only the darkness, physical darkness, but it's also darkness of knowledge, that we don't see our true nature because of our desire our enviousness of Krishna, our desire to be Lord and Master. We don't want to see God. We want to be God, and so therefore that knowledge is eclipsed. But once a spirit soul turns back towards, just like the turning back towards the bird on the branch, then that illumination is once again reinstated. It's very simple. It's just like, when you turn your back to the sun, just like when the earth turns towards darkness, you're in darkness. It's not like that God has eclipsed himself or withdrawn himself from your presence. It's that you've made a conscious decision to turn away from God. So just in the same way that when you turn away from a light source, you're in darkness. Similarly, we are in darkness of ignorance. One Vedic mantra says, Tamha Devam Atma Buddhi Prakasham Mumukshur Vaisharanam Aham Prapadye. One must surrender into the Supreme Personality of Godhead if he at all wants liberation. As far as the goal of ultimate knowledge is concerned, it is also confirmed in Vedic literature. Tam eva vidit vat it mrityum eti. Only by knowing you can one surpass the boundary of birth and death. Yeah, it's knowing Krishna, and that knowledge is given to us by our spiritual master. It's given to us by Krishna, and that's why it's stated that by the grace of God, one finds Guru, and by the grace of Guru, one finds God. And that's the knowledge that's given to us. It's the knowledge of Krishna, of knowing Krishna. He is situated in everyone's heart as the supreme controller. The supreme has legs and hands distributed everywhere, and this cannot be said of the individual soul. Therefore, there are two knowers of the field of activity. The individual soul and the supersoul must be admitted. One's hands and legs are distributed locally, but Krishna's hands and legs are distributed everywhere. This is confirmed in the Svetasavatara Upanishad, Sharvasya Prabhum, Ishanam Shavasya Sharanam Blahat. That Supreme Personality of Godhead Supersoul is the Prabhu, or Master of all living entities. Therefore, he is the ultimate center of all living entities, so there is no denying the fact that the Supreme Supersoul and the individual soul are always different. Text 19. Iti kshetram tata gananam ganeyam choktum sama shataha mad bhakta eta ganaya mad bhava yo papadyate. Iti, thus, kshetram, field of activities, the body, tata, also, gananam, knowledge, ganeyam, knowable, cha, also, uktam, describe, sama, shata, in summary. Sama is equal, right? So that's kind of interesting. I wonder if that's the same word. Sama shataha. In summary, mat bhaktaha, my devotee, itat, all this, ganaya, after understanding, mat bhavaya, my nature, upad padyate, attains. Thus, the field of activities, the body, knowledge, and the knowable have been summarily described by me. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. Purport. The Lord has described in summary the body, body, knowledge, and the knowable. This knowledge is of three things: the knower, the knowable, and the process of knowing. Combined, these are all called Vijnanam, or the science of knowledge. Just like that V is in the beginning of the karma, which is, activities done in the service of Krishna that have no karmic attachment. So this is a science of knowledge. Perfect knowledge can be understood by unalloyed devotees of the Lord directly. Others are unable to understand. The Manas say that at the ultimate stage, these three items become one. But the devotees do not accept this. Knowledge and development of knowledge mean understanding oneself in Krishna consciousness. We are being led, that's very profound. I'm going to read that again. The Manas say at the ultimate stage that these three items become one. So the knower, the knowable, and the process of knowing merge into oneness in one reality. There is a reality, but it's Krishna consciousness, and it's not the same thing. Knowledge and development of knowledge mean understanding oneself in Krishna consciousness. So that's a really amazing thing. So the knowledge is knowing yourself in relationship to Krishna. So despite what level you are spiritually, this is what it's talking about. Knowledge and development of knowledge. So if you may be developing your knowledge, you may have the knowledge, but either way, it's still bhakti yoga, or it's a process of bhakti yoga. We are being led by material consciousness, but as soon as we transfer all consciousness to Krishna's activities and realize that Krishna is everything, then we attain real knowledge. In other words, knowledge is nothing but the preliminary stage of understanding devotional service perfectly. That's really amazing. In other words, knowledge is nothing but the preliminary stage of understanding devotional service perfectly. So it's a process, right? And this is why we have the process of sadhana bhakti, because we have certain material contamination and desires that we have not yet surrendered completely, but we are in the process of surrendering. We're on that track, as Srila Prabhupada would say. We come faced with like a decision: do I surrender to Krishna? Do I surrender to Maya? Every time we surrender to Krishna, that we get closer. Our perfection of the knowledge becomes greater. And every time we surrender to Maya, that we go away from the knowledge of Krishna. Prakritam, text 20, Prakritam Purusham Chaiva Vijyanati Nadi Ubhavapi Vikaramscha Gunam Sachaiva Vidi Prakriti Shambhava Bhavan. Prakritam, material nature, Purusham, living entities, Cha, also, Eva, certainly, Vidi, must know, Anadi, without beginning, Ubhau, both, Api, also, Vikaran, transformation, Cha, also, Gunan, three modes of nature, Cha, also, Eva, certainly, Vidi, no, Prakriti, material nature, Sambhavan, produced of. Material nature in the living entity should be understood to be beginningless. So we've stated that before, that material nature, but living entities have no beginning and no end, but material nature also has no beginning and no end. It is just mutable. It is consistently changing. But the actual atoms of the material nature are eternal. They consist, they are changing, they're making new things, they're breaking down, they're forming. The living entity, however, does not break down and form. It has an experience of a beginning, middle, and end while in the material nature. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. The transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. So the modes of matter, modes of material nature, material matter, are the products of nature. The transformations of what they go through in matter, what the matter goes through around them, are products of material nature, but they are not. By this knowledge of the body, the field of so it's the field of activities that's happening. Field of activities, and activities that constantly change and transform and mutate into things and mutate out of things, but the living entity is present within all that, experiencing that as it goes around them. That's actually amazing knowledge. By this knowledge, the body, the field of activities, and the knower of the body, both the individual soul and the super soul, can be known. Yeah, and sometimes we don't really grasp the transformations that are going on. We can see them over time. Some things are very obvious, like our body's moving. We feel good one minute and then change the other minute. We can see those transformations happening, but things that are a little bit take more time, like our bodies, like the earth, we got the Kulau range out there. It's been 1,000 years or more, whenever the volcano erupted. And if you look at pictures of old Hawaii from 200 years ago, there's a transformation of the buildings around that are here now that weren't there before. But when you look at the range, it looks pretty much the same. I mean, there's some transformation. There's been rains and things that have transformed it very slightly, but we don't perceive it. So or like a redwood tree, or mountains, or the earth, or the universe. Those transformations do consistently change, but the big picture is like sometimes a little bit longer in time. But they do change. But they'll go and grow and transform into other things. That's actually very fascinating. The body is a field of activities. Let me start over from the beginning of this purport. By this knowledge, the body, the field of activities, and the knowers of the body, both the individual soul and the supersoul, can be known. The body is the field of activity and is composed of material nature. It is the individual soul which is embodied. So the Jivatma is present within this changing transformation of matter. He is the knower. He knows it. He knows what's going on around him. And the other is the supersoul. Of course, it is to be understood that both the supersoul and the individual entity are different manifestations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The living entity is in the category of his energy, and the supersoul is in the category of his personal expansion. So that's different. The living entity is not an expansion of Krishna. It is the energy, a manifestation of his energy. Supersoul is not, is an expansion of his energy. Both material nature and the living entity are eternal. That is to say that they existed before the creation. The material manifestation is from the energy of the Supreme Lord, and so are all the living entities, but they are of the superior energy. So this harkens back to chapter 7, when we talked about earth, the inferior nature, the inferior matter, that is earth, water, fire, air, ether, and then the subtle material energy of mind, intelligence, and false ego. And then the superior energy, where the living entities that were actually struggling within these, watching this field of activity of material nature and trying to enjoy from this material nature, frustrated by the effects because they were eternal, unchangeable in itself, and trying to enjoy something that was consistently changing, and frustrating because it's here at one point and it's gone at the next point. So that's very fascinating. I mean, that's a very scientific grounding concept, that energy is changing. Energy is changing, but the spiritual energy is a supreme energy. It is a different form of energy, and it doesn't change. It is eternal and ever existing and primeval. And the illusion of change is what we are watching in our field of activities, what we're experiencing in the field of activities that are so close, that we're so close that the consciousness is lent to the material energy, that it appears that we are born, grow up, existing in this world, marrying, having children, having jobs, but that is not really who we are, and then eventually dying. That this is somehow the reality of who we are, which is not true at all. So this is a very fascinating and amazing revelation. Enjoying the activities of the body is the Purusha. So we are a controller, right? So the Purusha is a controller. We have the supreme para Purusha, the supreme controller, which is Krishna, who is controlling all things. But we're also a controller. We have a little bit of control to be able to control and manipulate the field of activities, right? He is one knower, and the other is the supersoul. And that controlling is really just the desiring, actually, because all those things are actually controlled by material nature as well. So he is one knower and the other is a supersoul. Of course, it is understood. Oh, okay, I read that. The living entity is in the category of its energy, and the supersoul. Okay, wait a minute, I've read this. The material manifestation is from the energy of the Supreme Lord, and so are the living entities, but they are of superior energy. Both of them existed before this cosmos was manifested. Material nature was absorbed in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Mahavishnu, and when it was required, it was manifested by the agency of Mahatattva. Similarly, the living entities are also in him, and because they are conditioned, they are adverse to serving the Supreme Lord. Thus, they are not allowed to enter into the spiritual sky. After the winding up of the material nature, these living entities are again given a chance to act in the material world and prepare themselves to enter into the spiritual world. Very fascinating. So the material world is not really we made a mistake, and we have an option to try to either serve Maya or to go back to Krishna, go back where we came from, which is really where we will find our true happiness. And we can prepare ourselves to enter into the spiritual world. That is the mystery of this material creation. Actually, the living entity is originally the spiritual part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. But due to his rebellious nature, he is conditioned within material nature. So we're rebellious. We don't want to. We want to be Krishna. We want to be the Lord. And we're all these living entities. Everybody wants to be the Lord. But there can only be one Lord. And we are so small. It really does not matter how these living entities or superior entities of the Supreme Lord have come into contact with material nature. Yeah, because people ask Bhaktivedanta that. It was not really about why we chose to come to the material world, or why we decided to be rebellious, but how do we get out of it? It's like you're in a problem. How did I get into this problem? It's like you've broken down on the side of the road somewhere, and you're just not thinking like, okay, how did I get that flat tire? Maybe it could have been running over the pothole back there, or maybe it was a broken bottle somewhere back. Maybe I should go back and try to figure out why I broke down. It's like, no, you try to figure out the solution of how do I get my car fixed and continue on. So similarly, it's not really important to think, to speculate, well, if we were happy in the spiritual world, then why did we choose to come to the material world, and yada, yada, yada. No, we are in the material world. We've got to go back to the spiritual world. So that is, how do we do that? We do that because Krishna gives us the opportunity to come into contact with his representative who instructs us on how to get out of the material world and go back to Krishna. Yeah, okay, so the Supreme Personality of Godhead knows, however, how and why this actually took place. So Krishna knows why. In the scripture, the Lord says that those who are attracted by this material nature are undergoing a hard struggle for existence. But we should know it was with certainty from the descriptions of these few verses that all the transformations and influences of material nature by the three modes are also productions of material nature. All transformations and variety in respect to living entities are due to the body. As far as the spirit is concerned, living entities are all the same. So this is our equilibrium, our brotherhood, our, you want equal rights among people. We can have equal rights by understanding that we're all children of God, regardless of whatever field of activity that we're in at the time, whether it be black, white, tall, straight, gay, whatever it might be, whatever concept we have in this field of activity of who we are truly unified as children of God and all as servants of Krishna. So what better thing to do than to spread Krishna consciousness to people that would be the greatest unifier of men and women and children and whatever, unifier of people, living entities, all focused on the same goal of rendering service to Krishna, helping each other come back to Krishna, and go home, go to the spiritual world, and stop trying to be lords and controllers and creating so much suffering towards not only ourselves, but every living entity around us, destroying the Mother Bhumi, the earth, destroying from our selfish desire to own and control things. It's very straightforward. Text 21, Kara Karana Kartarve, that's a hard word, Kartrishve, Hetu Prakritya Uchate, Purushaha Shukya Dukya Hanam, Bhokta Vrite Hector Uchayate. Kara, effect, Karana, cause. Kartve, in the matter of creation, Hetu, instrument, Prakriti, material nature, Uchayate, it is said to be Purusha, the living entity, Shuka, happiness, Dukkha, of distresses, Potrive, in enjoyment, hetu, instrument, uchayate, is said to be. Text 21, nature is said to be the cause of all material activities and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. Purport, the different manifestations of body and senses among the living entities are due to material nature. So the manifestations of what body we get, what senses, they're produced by material energy. But the means, the causes of suffering and enjoyment in the material world is from our activities within this material nature, our karmic actions. There are 8,400,000 species of life, and these varieties are the creation of the material nature. They arise from the different sensual pleasures of the living entity, who thus desire to live in this body or that. So this comes from a desire to really enjoy in a particular type of body. So we may not be actually thinking like, I want to live in a snake body or whatever, or I want to be a flea or whatever, but we act in a certain way. We have particular desires to own and control, and according to that, material nature will the subtle body will be affected and shaped to take on a particular material, gross physical body in the next life. So these things are set into action by our karmic reactions. They arise from the sensual pleasures of the living entity, who thus desires to live in this body or that. When he is put into different bodies, he enjoys different kinds of happiness and distress. His material happiness and distress are due to his body and not to himself as he is. In his original state, there is no doubt of enjoyment. Therefore, that is his real state. Because of the desire to lord it over material nature, he is in the material world. In the spiritual world, there is no such thing. The spiritual world is pure, but in the material world, everyone is struggling hard to acquire victims who present different pleasures to the body. That's an interesting way of saying things. The spiritual world is pure, but in the material world, everyone is struggling hard to acquire victims who present different pleasures to the body. Wow, that's really powerful. So we're trying to manipulate and create situations of victims so that we can have different pleasures of the body. I can see that, in a lot of cases, the activities that we do create suffering and victims all over the place. If we want to eat a steak, very clear and straightforward. If we want to eat a steak, or if we don't like what one group of people are doing, we kill them. So we can take over their land, or what there's so many varieties of that. Some that are very straightforward, creating victims, and others that are not thinking that I'm creating victims and doing this. And so it might be more clear to state that this body is the effect of the senses. The senses are instruments for gratifying desire. Yes, they're instruments, and a lot of what is desire also is what is going on in the mind. So a lot of this is mind, like I'm going to enjoy doing that if the senses see something, taste something, hear something, and the mind is like, oh wow, I need more of that. I need to get more of that in the future. Senses are instruments for gratifying desire. Now, the sum total body and instrument senses are offered by material nature, and as will be clear in the next verse, the living entity is blessed or damned with circumstances according to his past desire and activity. Shh! Go away. My cat just scratched at the door. According to one's desires and activities, material nature places one in various residential quarters. The being himself is the cause of his attaining such residential quarters, and his attendant enjoyment or suffering. So the living entity is responsible for its activities. it desires those things, it acts on those things, and therefore it has to have a consequence of doing those things. Once placed in some particular kind of body, he comes under the control of nature, because the body, being matter, acts according to the laws of nature. So particular bodies, act according to the laws of nature. At that time, the living entity has no power to change the law. Suppose an entity is put into the body of a dog. As soon as he's put into the body of a dog, he must act like a dog. So he's not just, hey, I'm a human and I'm in this body of a dog. No, he'll act according to doghood, what a dog does and how a dog eats, sleeps, mates, and defends. But a dog doesn't inquire like a human about philosophical matters. It doesn't sit there and say, well, it's, had its meal, and then it's thinking like, well, what is the meaning of doghood? Like, where did I come from? No, dogs don't do that. They're just eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, because that's acting according to their nature. And their desires are in that field of activities within the modes of material nature. As soon as they are put into he cannot act otherwise. If the living entity is put into the body of a hog, then he is forced to eat stool and act like a hog. I think there's a story of Lord Indra, who was cursed and put into a body of a hog, and he was just like loving it. He was loving it, and then when they were ready to reinstate him as Lord Indra, he was like, no, I'm enjoying myself as a hog. He's eating, but Lord Indra is a demigod, and they have incredible foods and ways of enjoying, but that's in the body of a demigod, and that's those particular desires. So when he's in the body of the hog, he's forgotten about like what kind of enjoyments he could enjoy as a demigod. He's just thinking, oh, I love shit. Shit is tasty, yum. Similarly, if the living entity is put into the body of a demigod, he must act according to his body. Yes, that's what I'm saying. That is the law of nature. But in all circumstances, the supersoul is with the individual soul. So the supersoul is providing the desires that the living entity wants. That is explained in the Vedas as follows: Dvap Suparna Sayuja Shakya. The Supreme Lord is so kind upon the living entity that he always accompanies the individual soul in all circumstances, present as a supersoul or paramama. And I think we'll probably got more to go on in this chapter, but we'll end there at text 22, and we'll continue next time. Thank you. Namaste.